When did Americans lose the British accent? You know, I'm curious about that. Honestly, I'm curious about that because I can't fathom having that. I want to do a British accent, but then I don't want to. I don't want to get canceled. I can do Scottish easily, Irish a bit, and then my British is more like an Australian mixed with a Brit. Like the parents didn't know exactly how to raise the child, that type of thing. But yeah, when did Americans lose the British accent?
Maybe you've never thought of it this way, but colonial Americans spoke and behaved far closer to British than to American.
Yep.
Many early Americans still considered themselves British in colonial days, hence patriots versus loyalists. But when did the American brand actually start? When did we stop bowing, start shaking hands, and stop speaking British? Let's address a myth first. The American accent isn't some sort of new invention. It's actually an old one. In the 1700s, British English was not the Queen's English that we think of now. The British sounds right. I'm sorry. Anyway, instead, British English was rhotic, meaning they pronounced the R in words like hard, bar, and car. At the back end of the American Revolution, around the mid to late 1700s, the London elites began practicing non-rhoticity to sound more sophisticated and avoid association with the ungrateful younger brothers overseas, yes, but mostly to distance themselves from the poor, low-born.
So what I'm hearing is Americans are the only ones speaking the true English. Got it. Got it. I can lean into that. Superior! Superior!
People around them. And this is really neat. The Americans were new and demanding independence, so you'd think they would be the ones to quickly change the way they speak, but that's just not the case. Americans didn't develop a new accent. We just kept the one we had and gradually changed it while England moved on considerably sooner and far more intentionally. Put another way, before and during the Revolution, the average redcoat and the average patriot were speaking with similar accents. So in practice, the American accent kind of froze many of the English sounds of the 1700s. King George III of back then probably sounded a lot more American than King Charles. Somebody please give me a good explanation as to why this portrait looks the way it does. We stayed Elizabethan and they went posh. And this is really important as far as class and national themes. In the US, liberty and equality were massive virtues and still are now. And not to say that those virtues are not present in the UK today, but there's a clear discrepancy in that birth.
Yeah, like a clear discrepancy. Like freedom of speech does not exist in the UK. Freedom of expression, it depends on, there's selective expression. You have to have the right expression. But yeah, a lot of that stuff doesn't exist.
White hierarchy still stands as a major recognized institution. And we can't skip over the demographic changes here either, as the early American West, for example, was a melting pot of German, Irish, and Scandinavian influences, while Great Britain just remained far more homogenous for much longer. But there's more here. With speech changes comes reading and writing changes. Have you ever wondered why Americans and Brits, Americans and Brits, there we go, have different spellings for words like color? Well, of course you have. Look, I'm in your brain already, which I'm sure is massive and juicy, lots of wrinkles, yeah. For this spelling thing, we can thank Noah Webster. Yes, that Webster. He thought that as long as Americans used British spelling, they were still mentally enslaved to the crown. He wanted an American language that was as lean and efficient as the people, and many of his suggestions gained massive traction in the late 18th century and stuck around till today. He chopped the U out of honor. He flipped the R-E in theater to theater. These seem perfectly normal to the average American nowadays, but get this.
Yeah, because that stuff is just like, it doesn't change the way it's read. It doesn't change the way it's read, for the most part. By the way, what's U.S. general opinion about failed mediation attempts by PAC and Qatar? A lot of time and money. I don't know. I've done much.
There were more
looking
rejected
into
changes than accepted ones. I'll show you a few, and I think you'll really like this. He wanted to change tongue to tongue, believe to believe, machine to machine, soup to soup, daughter to daughter, head to head, and my personal favorite, women to women. And I really like this one, but because first it's just funny, all right? And secondly, it cleans up that weird pronunciation dilemma we have with the singular and plural sounding nearly identical when read literally, which was a problem even back then.
Yep.
Webster's solution was practical, and guess what? Most Americans still vocalize women just as Webster had it spelled. But his superior spelling was ultimately rejected because people found the spelling to be too ugly.
This accent and pronunciation concept is so garbage to me. Potato will remain potato, irrespective of accent until it's in English. Well, potato is potato. Like, I've never understood why people say potato. I've never heard a language that says potato. I really haven't. I really haven't. I've never heard it said out of potato. Only time I've ever heard potato is when people say potato. I've never heard anyone actually say potato in talking. No matter what it is, no matter if I'm watching like an Australian, an Austrian, a Russian, a British, everyone who's used in an English accent or an accent, never say potato. I've always heard potato, always. Maybe my head just translates it, but I've never heard them actually say potato.
Let me know in the comments, which alternative Webster spelling should we reintroduce today? And tell me how we should fix this women problem. That sounds bad, but you know what I mean. The point here is that the speech changing along with the spelling was an attempt at a psychological breakaway from the British, and it worked. Sooner or later, Webster was able to rewire the American brain to see Britishness as an extra, unnecessary piece of baggage. By 1790, acting British was socially dangerous. If you carried yourself like a duke, people assumed you wanted the redcoats back. They thought you were, a bit posh, perhaps bougie. Being practical, common, maybe even a bit plain was valuable both for the theme of equality as well as distance from Brittany.
Have I heard tomato? Yes. Tomato I have heard. Tomato I have heard. Tomato. Yeah, that one I have. I've never heard potato though. I have heard tomato.
I just made that common noun up, but funny how you know exactly what I mean. Take a handshake, for example. In London, a bow was a physical map of who was above whom, but in Philadelphia, the handshake became the law of the land. It was a radical, metaphorical middle finger to the class system. Look a man in the eye and grip his hand, a display that we overlook now, but directly respects the language from the Declaration against Great Britain, that all men are created equal. Benjamin Franklin was really good at this. He would show up to important events dressed humbly, even showing up to the French court in a raccoon hat and plain brown suit. Everyone else was in powdered wigs and silk stockings, even the men. It seemed unserious, but this representation of the American public as simple, somewhat rugged, was effective in securing French alliance against the British. I have a whole video on why Benjamin Franklin wasn't the president and really was just a goofy guy, if you're interested. Now, you think this trend from Franklin of being distinctly rustic and specifically anti-posh to contrast against the British would have translated to other founding fathers and early presidents, but this just didn't happen, not for a while. In fact, for the first 40 years, US presidents were still Virginia gentlemen, if you will. They spoke with a refined, rhythmic cadence. Then came 1828, and this absolute menace of a man became the 7th president, Andrew Jackson. He ran on and embraced the persona of the regular man and woman, and while he wasn't the most...
He's the reason America is the shape it is. He's the reason.
Morally upstanding figure, to say the least, he was dedicated to the average person. He may have been the only true common man president that the US has ever had. Let me know if you agree with that statement. I mean, just think, when's the last time we had a regular guy be president?
I hit 17 straight three-pointers.
Probably for the better, right? Anyway, Jackson's inauguration was closer to a riot than a ceremony like we're used to now. No, really, it was an actual riot. Thousands of common people flooded the White House. They tracked mud on the expensive rugs, they broke fine china, and they forced the president to escape through a side door while the staff lured the mob outside with tubs of spiked punch.
Is this January 4th? Or was it 6th? Was it January 6th? Is this January 6th? The history repeats itself.
And now we close our eyes and visualize what they may have looked like. Look, guys, leave the president alone. Look, there's alcohol outside. And that's all it took. Man, we used to be a country, man. We used to be, The British observers, presumably with their noses upturned, this must have been the end of days. To Americans, it was the birth of the frontier identity. This is the moment we traded the salon for the saloon. We stopped trying to be refined and started being authentic. This is where the American voice gets faster, louder, and more utilitarian. Something interesting, though, we should note here, specifically with accents, is that
I guess I've completely embodied the faster and louder. I talk way too quickly, sometimes because I get tongue-tied. I stutter. I'm a stutterer. Surprisingly, what helps is actually talking all the time actually helps me improve my capability of talking. Just like if you're with me being, I'm talking about it, so now it's happening. With me being dyslexic, reading actually helps with my dyslexia because eventually my brain catches up and it helps me make sense of the nonsense I'm seeing, which honestly, streaming helps me with that because I'll read comments and I get better. Like if you look at my earlier videos, I'm stuttering. If I'm not streaming for a week, I get even worse, but I have to keep up with the reading. I have to keep up with all that stuff for me to get better. But I've always been a loud person. I'll be talking at the dinner table and I'm just 10 times DPI volume louder than everyone else around me. And same thing with my pace has always been quick. Because I'm watching a show with my wife right now. It's time is gold. I guess I just embody that where I just talk quickly. I'm a very loud person, so everyone can, I get the center of attention. I don't mean to be the center of attention. I'm just generally a loud person. I generally talk quickly. I just want to get the point across so I can continue moving on with my life, I guess. I don't want to be stuck in a conversation, so I talk quickly. I talk very quickly. I mean, I yap nonstop. And I guess I embody this ideal of being louder, talking faster.
Kind of went backwards. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, wealthy Americans got accent envy again, let's say. This created the mid-Atlantic accent, that weird half-British voice you hear in old movies.
American.
From Franklin D. Roosevelt's an example of this. That weird fake accent. Some schools even taught it to make Americans just sound better, more upper class, so to speak. But this ultimately failed. Why? Because the pioneer identity was just too strong already. After World War II, the mid-Atlantic accent died. Trying to sound elite just wasn't cool. It was very un-American. Yeah. There's definitely some subtext with that one.
Very un-American. Everyone needs to be exactly the same. Exactly the same.
So, when did we stop acting British, speaking British? It wasn't a single day. Nothing in history is that fast. Instead, it was a 50-year slow fade from the halls of Parliament to the mud of the Tennessee frontier. Early American history gets skipped over, and it sucks because there's a lot of cool stuff. I like showing off the weird parts and answering the burning questions.
Yeah.
Click here to see why America
I like that. Very, very to the point. Very to the point. And I learned exactly why I talk so fast. It's just inherent. It's instinctual for me. That's just who I am. That's just who I am. That video was by History Helms. History Helms. I like that. I like that. I didn't expect to get much. I was just like, you know what? Maybe this. I need to subscribe. I was like, I didn't expect to get much. Then I'm watching. I'm like, huh? I like this. I like this. This is why I was such a abrasive, like loud person. Oh, he only has 16K subscribers. People need to subscribe. People need to subscribe. That I like those types of things. So, informative, fun, enjoyable. Of course, I was playing it at like 1.75 speed because, again, the more I watch, the more I need to see things quickly. The more I need to see things quickly, or else I just don't understand it. I just don't understand it. It's just how I am. It's just how I am. But very enjoyable video. Very enjoyable video. And again, it's always nice to kind of see the roots and how things changed over time. Like, what is it? France refuses to have any sort of adaptive dialogue. I remember studying about this a while ago. I don't know if it's changed, but they would refuse, like if there's a word that's used around the world, like blue jeans, they would have to create their own form of it to say what it is. Like they always had to have like their language be their language. They didn't want to have it muddied down with other languages. Like look at the English language now. In America, we use so many terminologies. Like karma's a word that everyone uses in the United States of America. You say it, everyone knows exactly what it means. Everyone knows exactly what it means. It's not an English word. It's become an English word, but it's not an English word. America has so many words like that have been taken in from other nations and have multiple in-depth meaning, and it just embodies the entire meaning in some cases. In some cases, like karma, people know. People know.
You guys see the video? So bad.
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Wait like that.